Hello everybody, welcome to the Generic Cappy YouTube channel. I hope you're all doing well and staying safe. I'm Amar, otherwise known as Generic Cappy, and today, if you all did not know, Nintendo has announced the June 2024 Nintendo Direct. They said it will be airing on June 18th, 2024 at 7 a.m. PT, 10 a.m. ET, and said it will focus mostly on Nintendo Switch games coming in the second half of 2024, and that there will be no mention of the Nintendo Switch successor during the presentation. I decided that, like with every other Nintendo Direct that has aired in last 4 or 5 years, I want to do a prediction video for this Direct. It's very possible that this is the last Nintendo Direct that will be in the Nintendo Switch era, or quote-unquote the Nintendo Switch era, meaning that the last Direct focusing exclusively on the Nintendo Switch. So it could be a very exciting one. They could have some pretty big major announcements to wrap up this year and then even go into a little bit of next year like most of the June Nintendo Directs do. If you do enjoy this video, please feel free to subscribe, like, comment down your own predictions in the comments below, and let us get right into it. So I figured the way I would structure this predictions video is first talking about what we do know, and then go into my predictions, and then I don't really title my prediction videos with predictions/hopes, but I should probably start doing that more often because I'm also going to go into what I hope is in this Nintendo Direct, but I don't expect to be there. So there is 3 titles that I want to talk about first. That is stuff we already know that Nintendo's already announced before that could appear in this Nintendo Direct. There's technically 4 games, but the 4th game I will talk about a little bit later in its own section, because that's probably the one major question about this Nintendo Direct, and I figure, it would be in its own section because there's other games that could also accompany it when and if it is in this Nintendo Direct. However, the 3 games I do want to talk about first is Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, Nintendo World Championships NES Edition, and Pokemon Legends ZA, which are all games that Nintendo announced, within the last couple of months with Nintendo World Championships NES Edition and Pokemon Legends ZA. And then Luigi's Mansion 2 HD is a game that we've seen in both the June Nintendo Direct from last year, the September Nintendo Direct from last year, and the Mario Day little video that they uploaded, which is also really interesting. I brought up a really interesting point. This is the first Nintendo Direct of the year. We did not get a February Nintendo Direct, so that also speaks to the point where I think this is going to be a pretty big Nintendo Direct. It's going to have, I think, a good amount of first-party items. Obviously, it's going to have a good amount of third-party games too, but I think if maybe there was an earlier Direct in the year, I wouldn't necessarily say the Luigi's Mansion 2 HD would have as much of a chance as it does have now to appear in a Direct, but I do think they probably want to give it one last push before it releases next week on Thursday. So, like I mentioned, let's talk about these 3 games. Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, I think it will have a very small part in the Direct, but I do think it will be here. I think it will either have a simple headline that's about 45 seconds to a minute. Again, I don't think I mentioned it, but we only have 40. This Direct is roughly 40 minutes. So I don't really know how much time they want to give to Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, especially being that it is out next week. So they've probably done most of the marketing that they have planned for it. But again, I could see it being either a simple headline in the Nintendo Direct or part of a sizzle reel like they did at the end of the September Direct last year, where they showed all of the first party titles coming out at that point that was announced, besides Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door. I think that either of those 2 options are possible. I think no matter what, we do see Luigi's Mansion at some point during this week, because they have not released the overview trailer outside of Japan yet. So I could see them doing a simple headline here, or it being a part of the sizzle reel, and then maybe a couple hours after the Direct or a couple days from now, they upload the overview trailer in all the other languages. I think that's very possible. I could see them using that also if it does release a little bit after Nintendo Direct, maybe combining labeling as a Nintendo Direct item, which I think is pretty I think it'll be pretty. I don't know the right word, but I think it'll be pretty beneficial to do that connected to Nintendo Direct. Even if the overview trailer or maybe just a part of the overview trailer is in the Direct itself. The other game that Nintendo did announce last month, so that brings up a question if it will be in the Direct, is Nintendo World Championships NES Edition. I think it will be in the same boat as Luigi's Mansion 2 HD. If it does appear in this Nintendo Direct, I think it will either be in a small headline or a part of the sizzle reel that I talked about earlier, if they do another sizzle reel with first-party titles. This one I think is a little more likely than Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, just because I feel like we haven't seen much of it, but I also don't know how much more they have to show off outside of the announcement trailer. And then last year we also got everybody's 1-2 Switch, and that also didn't appear in Nintendo Direct. And that was announced roughly around the same time as Nintendo World Championships NES Edition. But also, this game is also coming out later than that game did. So, it's a big question. I don't think it's going to get like a huge presence in Nintendo Direct. I think those huge spotlights and even like the larger headlines will be saved for like new announcements or new announcements for like Nintendo Switch. So I think those two games do have a pretty big chance of appearing in the Direct, but I wouldn't say they get like a huge section or like a huge trailer or anything like that. I don't think they get like a spotlight. I think that's what I'm trying to say. And then there is Pokemon Legends ZA. I'm a little less feeling like it's gonna appear in the Direct, or a little less willing to say it's gonna appear in the Nintendo Direct. I think like with Luigi's Mansion and Nintendo World Championships, it's probably like around like a 70% chance they appear in the Direct. I think Pokemon Legends ZA is like a 25%, just because I feel like they will probably do a Pokemon Presents at some point within the next couple of months, and I feel like that's much more likely to appear there. And I feel like they probably want to show off gameplay in that Pokemon Presents. That'd be the first place that gameplay is shown. However, at the same time, it's possible Nintendo Directs maybe have more of a reach to a wider audience than the Pokemon Presents. So, I mean, if they want Pokemon Legends EA to be seen by, I guess, a larger amount of people, they could put in the Direct. I just don't know how likely that is, especially since they started doing Pokemon Presents that don't even have the Direct branding anymore. I mean, last year, if you think about it, we did have the June and September Direct show Pokemon stuff. The June Direct having a much larger presence of Pokemon stuff with the DLC for Scarlet and Violet and Detective Pikachu Returns showing up. And then the September Direct having both those games in the sizzle reel. But I give it 25%. I still think that's a pretty decent chance, but I don't really think that we're going to see it. If we do see it, I think it'll be in the sizzle reel again. And I don't really think it'll be any new footage. I think it's just maybe the logo that we see again. But if it is in this Direct, I think we will see gameplay. I don't think they're going to do another cinematic trailer for it. So that is all we technically know besides one game, Metroid Prime 4, which I said I will talk about in a little bit in its own different section. But I wanted to, address those first because those are the things we know about. I think that's everything. There might be like some smaller things that like Splatfest. We know there's a Splatfest coming up. I think that will be here. I saw somewhere that the Splatfest, there's two more Splatfests that are technically planned. There's a summer one and then the final Splatfest. I honestly would not be surprised if they talk about both in this Direct. Maybe they tease the final Splatfest and then they give out like the theming for the summer one if they haven't already. So I think that's a 50-50 chance that we see the Splatfest in this Direct, and then maybe 30% chance that we also hear about the tease, see a tease for the final Splatfest. But I think that's it. I think that's all that we know from Nintendo currently. There might be like smaller DLC, smaller updates that are planned for other games, like F-Zero 99, but I think that's like the larger. I think that's like the larger stuff that we know about. So let's get right into the predictions now. So when it comes to the predictions that I made or have written down for this video, they're kind of scattered. I have them in like specific sections, but there's some stuff in like sections. One section that could like appear in like another one, but I'm gonna start with the stuff I feel like is most likely to appear in this direct. Not one of them is based off of rumors. That not rumors for like the last couple of years that I feel like could appear in this direct, but the other ones are pretty much just like speculation or things that I feel like will be in this direct. And then the later predictions, before I even do my hopes, are stuff that I feel like it has a pretty decent chance. The stuff in the hope section, well, I think they have like a chance. I think it's like a 5 to 10% chance of appearing in the direct. This stuff I feel like maybe around like 40 to 80%. Nothing I've said so far guaranteed, which is kind of unique. We don't usually get that with Nintendo Directs. We usually have at least something that we feel like is guaranteed to appear in the direct. But even with the statement that they put out, or like the social media post, last year in the June direct, they said that they would be showing off Pikmin 4. This time they haven't said anything about what they'll be showing off, just that they'll be showing off games that were for the Nintendo Switch, focused around the second half of this year. So that's very exciting. But the first game I just wanted to start off with is the Fire Emblem 4 remake. This is the game I've been talking about that has been rumored for a couple of years now. I don't know if it doesn't appear in this direct. It's definitely a next generation or a cross-gen game. I don't think that it is, I don't think we're going to see it like announced at some point this year if it's not here, especially since I think they probably have to give it like 2 or 3 months of lead up. And I don't really think it's going to be the holiday game. So I think, we saw Fire Emblem Engage last year. So I feel like that's, a good amount of time. It's been about a year and a half. The DLC ended, I think, very early for Engage, like in March or April of last year. So, I think this game has been rumored, and it's been rumored that they were working on it side by side with Engage and Three Houses, and maybe even Three Hopes, though I don't really think Intelligent Systems had a lot to do with Three Hopes. Maybe they did. I'm not really sure. So I feel like it's very possible this game is also just finished, and Nintendo's just been waiting on the perfect time to release it. And I think now, with this being probably the final year, fully focused just on Nintendo Switch, or like with Nintendo Switch being Nintendo's only console on the market, this is probably the perfect time to release it. I could see them releasing it early next year, and then maybe they can reveal it later in the year. But if it's out this year, I think it's in this direct. And I'm giving it, I'm not going to give everything a percentage. I think I've given everything so far a percentage, but it's a little harder for the stuff later in the prediction video or my predictions to give them percentages. But I think this probably is 80%. I might not go higher than 80% on any of these other ones, but I think this is 80% likely to appear in the Nintendo Direct in tomorrow, in less than 24 hours, which is still really crazy. Nintendo's been doing Nintendo Directs in like 24 hours after they announce them, which is very crazy. There's not a lot of time when it comes to lead up anymore, which is, well, there wasn't even really much time previously. We had about maybe 7 extra hours, which isn't too much, granted. The next game I want to talk about is Mario Party, something in the Mario Party series. What I wrote down is a new Mario Party or something akin to Mario Party Superstars 2. I think that's pretty likely. Superstars came out came out 3 years ago, in October. So 3 years ago when we reach October, and that's kind of when I expect this next Mario Party to release. I also wrote down Mario Party Superstars DLC. I feel like that's honestly less likely at this point. I feel like, a new Mario Party probably would sell better. It'd probably get a lot more, it'll probably get a lot more sales. Though the reason why I put down Superstars DLC was because I feel like if they add it to the Nintendo Switch expansion pass, it could lead to also extra sales on Superstars, because then people will be like, oh, it's a part of my expansion pass plan, but I don't have the game yet. So let me get the game. You know, I don't think they're gonna raise the price if they add Superstars DLC, and then let me get the game, and then I have this DLC to go along with it. I don't really know how well that worked for like Animal Crossing and Mario Kart, just because those games are like evergreen games, so they will just continue to sell. We have two Mario parties on the Nintendo Switch, so I don't know. I mean, I think it's more likely that we see a new game or like a remastered a game with remastered boards, like Mario Party Superstars 2, but you never know. I think that the new game is probably also around 80%, and the DLC is maybe like 40-ish%. Again, I wrote it down just because I feel like there's a chance, and a pretty big chance at that, maybe like a 50-50 chance at the very most. But I think Nintendo probably would do a little better just by releasing another Mario Party, in October, around October, like they did with Superstars and Super. The other thing that I wrote down that I feel like is, and this is the last thing that I put like in the specific sections of just like stuff I feel like will appear in this direct, that's like had a pretty good chance of appearing in this direct, and that's something Zelda. There's a lot of different things that from the Legend of Zelda series that I feel can appear here. My hope would be a new 2D Zelda. I don't know how likely that is. I know there's a couple of rumors going around that Nintendo's working on one that is that not like a remake or remaster or anything. It's like a new 2D Zelda. That would be my hope to appear here. The one thing that when you talk about these predictions is that what will they be holding for the next console, and what will they be willing to release on this one? And the last two games I talked about, like 2.5 games I talked about, I feel like those are games that Nintendo would be willing to release on this console, especially since I'm assuming if Fire Emblem 4 Remake has been finished for a little while, they probably also started working on the next Fire Emblem. And then, I could definitely see if the next console is not cross-gen, but both cross-gen and backwards compatible, like the Mario Party, they can maybe release some updates for like the next console for that one. And then maybe they'll probably have a Mario Party out early in the console's lifespan anyways. So I think they'll be willing to do that as well. But like with something like a new 2D Zelda, it's a little bit, a little more iffy, because would they want to hold off on releasing a 2D Zelda? The other prediction I wrote down was a port of The Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds. I think that's honestly more likely. But I think the more likely thing from the Zelda series is a 2D Zelda, a remake or a remaster or a new game, or just a port of one of the games, a HD port at that. I don't think they're gonna port like A Link Between Worlds and then not make it HD. But I think that's probably the most likely thing. The other thing is HD ports from the Wii U of Twilight Princess and Wind Waker. This has been rumored for so long that I don't necessarily know if Nintendo's actually going to put these out on the Nintendo Switch. These are games that I feel like could maybe benefit more if they were on the next Nintendo console. Just because you can say like, ooh, these games are, I think, remakes. I think they're remakes. I think that's what they're considered. But it would be like it'd be Nintendo like releasing remakes, ports of remakes. And I don't really know if that works well. I don't know how well these would sell. But if you put it on the next console and you say it's a 4D, or not 4D, a 4K HD, a 4K port of the HD 2D Zelda, HD 3D Zelda games like Twilight Princess and Wind Waker, I think that's probably gonna sell better, and they can definitely use those to space out between now and whenever the next 3D Zelda does release. And that's also one of the reasons why I think maybe another 2D Zelda isn't, or like a new 2D Zelda isn't coming to Nintendo Switch. Just because I feel like they can put, maybe 2D Zelda next year, Twilight Princess and Wind Waker in the years that follow, and then maybe a Hyrule Warriors somewhere in there, and then the next 3D Zelda. But yeah, I think something Zelda is going to appear here. I think it's 2D Zelda. I think that it's probably one of the older games coming to Nintendo Switch. Um, there's also the possibility of like Oracle remakes. That's, you know, I think that's honestly more likely than 2D Zelda, especially if they give out to like Grezzo or something, to work on those while like the actual like main 2D Zelda or the main Zelda team's working on a new 2D Zelda, or maybe they give Grezzo the new 2D Zelda. So I think something Zelda will appear in this direct. What it is, it's pretty hard to predict. I would want a new 2D Zelda, but I think it's honestly going to be a remake or a master or a port of an old Zelda game. The other thing I wrote down about Zelda is, will we see Zelda movie news? Probably not. I wrote down casting. I don't think we're going to see casting yet. I think that's probably a 2025 thing. Maybe like a June 2025 Nintendo Direct. If they even do a Nintendo Direct in June next year, who knows? Maybe they do like another big presentation in June. I'm assuming the console's coming out in March. I don't think I've mentioned that here. But I think this Direct will detail up to March of next year. So I think that, I think we'll see like a presentation early next year for the Nintendo Switch 2 or the successors to Nintendo Switch. And so I feel like, I think we're a little too early still with movie news. It was just announced last year. They're probably still working on, the basic things that they need for a live action movie like that. So probably next year we see casting, if not early 2026. The last thing I technically have in this section, but I think it's probably a given, is something out of left field that no one would genuinely predict. That could be anything, honestly. I mean, I guess it can't be anything, but like last year in September we saw another Code remake. In June of last year we saw WarioWare. I don't really think anybody was predicting WarioWare or like Detective Pikachu 2 to show up. Detective Pikachu Returns. I don't think like those things were expected to ever be in Nintendo Direct. Even like Super Mario RPG or Super Mario Bros. Wonder. I think like that's something that's out of left field that not a lot of people would predict for a Direct. That I think is, kind of interesting. I think we'll see something like that here. I think that's also an 80% chance. I think the Zelda stuff's 60. I think a 2D Zelda is 60. I think everything else is maybe around 40%. But I only think we see one thing from Zelda in this Direct. And yeah, the thing I wrote down is, for me, this would be a Captain Toad 2. That's in my hope section, but that's technically also still out of left field a little bit, so... but I don't think it would be Captain Toad 2. It'd probably be something like, maybe like a different sport than what I'll predict in a little bit, or a couple minutes, with Mario like baseball. Maybe something like Mario basketball, Mario Hoops 3-on-3 or something like that. When everybody's like predicting baseball, they do basketball or something like that. But yeah, that I think out of all of those, I think we see at least 2 of those predictions come to fruition. My best bet would be Fire Emblem and the game that's out of left field. But I also probably think we see Mario Party. So I think we actually see 3 out of the 4 things I stated here. And then even at that, I also think we see Zelda. So I think these are probably the 4 things I would personally guarantee to appear in this Direct. Not like a guarantee, but if I had to like say 4 things, besides things that we know, I think these 4 things would be the things I would say. And then so after that, I basically just wrote down things I think is kind of likely, or not kind of likely, but very possible to appear in this Direct. And those things include like amiibos. I think we'll see probably some type of amiibo in this Direct. They seem like they like doing that when, especially in the June Directs, even though we've only really had one June Direct recently that showed amiibos, and that was the Zelda amiibos last year. Zelda and Ganondorf for Tears of the Kingdom. And that's also something I should probably mention. I don't think we're going to see anything for Tears of the Kingdom, any Tears of the Kingdom DLC or Tears of the Kingdom updates. I think they probably started working on the next 3D Zelda at this point, and that's probably where all their focus is currently. So I don't think we'll see that. I probably should have mentioned that in the Zelda section, but I think I also have probably something that I wrote down from Zelda somewhere in the future. Probably actually like in the next couple of minutes I'll probably say it, but yeah, I think that's I think we've probably stopped. I think they probably have something like still some like a group of people still working on Tears of the Kingdom, but I don't think it's a lot of people. I think they're probably all moved on to the next 3D Zelda. But besides that, again, I talked about Amiibos, talked about Splatoon. I think we see GameCube ports, and that's like the next thing. Star Fox, Adventures 1 or 2, or Assault, or Luigi's Mansion 1. I think Luigi's Mansion 1 actually might be the most likely, just because Nintendo might want to try to get all Luigi's Mansions on the Nintendo Switch. That would be 1, 2, and 3 at that point. I don't know that though. I mean, it would be a little weird to have Luigi's Mansion 1 come out a week before Luigi's Mansion 2, but you know, Luigi's Mansion 1 is pretty short, so I guess they could shadow drop it in the Direct tomorrow and then say like, oh, and then after you finish this, you can go play Luigi's Mansion 2. I think that's a pretty, that'd be pretty cool, but I don't really know if that's something Nintendo would do right now. They did that with Pikmin 1 and 2 last year, but that was also like a month between them when it released. So I think that's possible, but maybe not too likely. And then like even if like maybe Wind Waker or Twilight Princess show up tomorrow, I think that's probably would also count as maybe like a GameCube remake of sorts. So I don't really know, if those show up, I don't really think any other GameCube ports will show up. First party wise, maybe some third party ports from the GameCube. And then the other two I wrote down was Mario Kart Double Dash. I don't think that's actually going to appear here, but it would be fun. It'd be pretty cool. We haven't gotten a new Mario Kart on this console. And this wouldn't be new, but it would be like a port or a remake or a remaster of Double Dash. Maybe they'll add online play or something like that. I think it'll be pretty fun. And then the last thing I wrote down was Legend of Zelda 4 Swords Adventures. That's why I meant like when I said I think I included something that was in the Zelda section. 4 Swords Adventures would be pretty fun. Again, same thing with Double Dash. They could probably add online play with it. I think the DSiWare game had online multiplayer. Maybe it was just local multiplayer. But I think that 4 Swords is pretty cool. It'd be a pretty cool game to get on Nintendo Switch. That would count as the Zelda game that I mentioned earlier. But again, out of the ones I wrote down, I think Luigi's Mansion 1 probably is the most likely of these. Maybe Star Fox, maybe something from Star Fox from the GameCube. And then I went into Pokemon. Now it's a little weird because I wrote Pokemon down as like things we know, but I think we will probably see something from Pokemon in this Direct. And I think it'll be a spinoff. I don't think it'll be Legends ZA. I think it's gonna be a spinoff of sorts. My hope would be a new Pokemon Conquest, but I'm assuming that if Fire Emblem 4 Remake is here, that's probably not giving the Direct, because that'd be two very similar titles from Nintendo that like mechanically are very similar, and so I don't think they would do that. But it would be cool if they were. Maybe they could do Pokemon Conquest 2. Who knows? But the one I think that's most likely is either a Poke Park or a new Pokemon Rumble or Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. Out of all those, I think Pokemon Mystery Dungeon is probably the most likely, and then maybe Pokemon Rumble, and then maybe a new Poke Park. I think that kind of biased because that's the ones I would want. They could do any spinoff, but since this is a Nintendo Switch focused Nintendo Direct, I don't think we'll see a spinoff that also appears on Switch and mobile in this Direct. I don't really know if they've done that before. Well, they did show off Pikmin Bloom in a Direct, but that was also to tease or to lead us up to Pikmin 4 being revealed. So I don't think we're gonna see like Pokemon Shuffle or something like that. I think we will see a full release Pokemon spinoff if that's announced here. And then I did also include a GameCube port here. Pokemon Colosseum or Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness would be pretty fun. Again, it's weird with Pokemon because Pokemon is the one entity that Nintendo has some ownership of that I don't think, that is will it appear in our Direct or not? Like with Kirby, which I'll mention in a minute, even though HAL Laboratory has a pretty big stake in the franchise, I think Nintendo probably still owns majority, but HAL, owns a good amount of it, and they develop the games, but you don't see like a Kirby specific like event, like that's like widely advertised, and like the equivalence of like a Kirby Nintendo Direct. We don't really see that, but we do see that with Pokemon. So it is difficult to guess if Pokemon will appear here. With the GameCube ports, I forgot to mention. Like I said, I probably won't give everything percentage, but the GameCube ports, probably like a 40%. I think with Pokemon, it's probably the same as Legends Z. I think it has a 25% of appearing in this Direct, but it would still be fun to appear. And yeah, so also before we're 30 minutes into the predictions, so and I have about maybe a little bit more to go. We'll see, but I will also end the video talking about where I think these games will land. I have a specific page that I wrote what I think the Nintendo Direct will look like, and then what I hope it looks like for first-party titles. There's not really many third-party titles I put on here just because it's harder to predict third-party games compared to first-party stuff. So, but I think that's still pretty cool anyways. So, like I mentioned, with Pokemon, Kirby, I do think we probably see a Kirby here. It's definitely more likely than Pokemon, but I don't think it's gonna be like a new Kirby game or like new Kirby spin-off game. And I mean, I said that mistakenly. I don't think it will be a new Kirby mainline game. I think it will be either a port of an old Kirby mainline game or a new or port of a Kirby spin-off game. I'm kind of leaning towards the spin-off game. I think Kirby Air Ride would be pretty cool, but for the mainline games, I did put down Planet Robot. So I think it'd be either Planet Robot or Kirby's Air Ride. Maybe a sequel to Kirby Air Ride, but I don't think so. I think we're going to probably get a port of the GameCube game or like a remake or remaster of it. So that is pretty much all I have there for that section. The next ones are probably going to go through pretty fast just because there's not a lot to say because these ones, except I think one game here is stuff that we already know about, like not know about, but like has already been released on Nintendo consoles in the past. And that includes like 3D ports like Super Mario 3D Land or Tomodachi Life. Maybe a sequel to Tomodachi Life could be announced. I think I would want 3D Land just because I would kind of like want every era of 3D Mario on Switch. Even though I guess 3D World kind of counts for that, but I would, we have 64, we have Sunshine, we have Galaxy, we have 3D World, and we have Odyssey. I think it would be pretty cool if, to add on to all that, we see 3D Land. But I think Tomodachi Life, honestly, may be a little more likely. It was a pretty massive seller on 3DS. And, there's a lot of, not expectation, that's not the right word, but there's a lot of hope that, we will see a new Tomodachi Life soon. And I can agree with that. I think Tomodachi Life is pretty cool. So, I would personally want 3D Land. If we can get both in this Direct, I kind of also predicted a lot of stuff here that it's not really like a discussion of sorts. I'm not really predicting a lot of stuff right now. The only stuff I can pretty much guarantee that I feel like will appear is the Fire Emblem, the Mario Party, something from Zelda, maybe something different, and then maybe like 2 other games like a Kirby or maybe like I'll get into that in a little bit, but like a new Donkey Kong or something like that. Or it could be a 3D port. So, or maybe none of this will show up. Who knows? But I think 3D Land or a Tomodachi Life, I think that's pretty likely. You will note I did not mention a 3DS port here that I talked about in every single predictions video fairly recently. I think going back to probably 2020, 2021. And that is because it is in the hope section, because I don't think it will appear here. But I will get to that in probably a couple of minutes. So yes, and then the other section I have is Mario Sports. I kind of mentioned a Mario Sport earlier I think will be here, and that's Mario Baseball. But I think it's going to be Mario Baseball, a Mario Sports Collection, or Mario and Sonic at the 2024 Paris Olympic Games. The one I would probably want the most is Mario Baseball. And then it would go to Mario and Sonic, and then a Mario Sports Collection. Just because we haven't had Mario Baseball in a long time, and I think they could do a lot with Mario Baseball. Mario and Sonic is just a pretty cool, little thing that Nintendo doesn't even publish those games. It's Sega that publishes them, I believe. And they obviously Sega develops them. So, and then I don't know. The sports collections are cool, but they're not like as advanced as something like Mario Tennis Aces or Mario Golf Super Rush, or what I'm assuming like would be a Mario Sluggers. They're usually like pretty like they usually follow like the game like that's based off of, or like the sport is based off to a T. And that's not what I really want from this sports game if it's here. But I would still be fine with it. I would still get it and I would still play it because I mean Mario Sports is pretty cool. But the one I would want is Mario Baseball, and I think that's honestly probably the most likely here. And then I believe I have one more section. I have two more sections for predictions. I will actually, you know what? Yeah, I think I'm gonna do it now. I'm gonna talk about Metroid. Metroid Prime 4, Metroid. So I have 4 games here. I'm gonna talk about Metroid Prime 4. But I have 4 games listed here that I think has a somewhat likely chance to appear in this direct. Or not likely, but somewhat chance to appear in this direct. And I listed them in order. So I think the most likely is Metroid Prime 2 HD. The second likely is Metroid Prime 3 HD. And I think that's because if Metroid Prime 2 HD is here, I think that opens the door for 3. You know, as like a collection or some sort of maybe a double pack, or maybe they'll just announce both. One comes out in July. Yeah, July. And one comes out in like September or something like that. I think that'd be pretty cool. And then, you know, the big question is, what's the third and fourth game on this list, and like where do I rank them? I honestly think Metroid Samus Returns is more likely than Metroid Prime 4 to appear in this direct. And that's just because it has been 3 years since the last 2D Metroid. I think Samus Returns would be I wouldn't say it'd be like a pretty simple port, but I think it's much easier to do that than you know, like a new 2D Metroid, or even just like a new remake of a 2D Metroid. And it'll be something like at the end of the Switch that's pretty cool. It reviewed well, so a lot of people like it. And yeah, so I think Samus Returns is actually third. And then I mentioned Metroid Prime 4. You know, I think if Metroid Prime 2 is in this direct, at least Metroid Prime 2 is here, it will get a mention. If Metroid Prime 3 is here, I think it will get a mention. At least. I think we're going to at least hear about it if one of the other 2 Metroid games are here. Or even if Samus Returns is here. I think we will hear about it. But I don't really know how much we will see of it. I am on the boat that it is probably a cross-gen game. It will definitely release on the Nintendo Switch. But even if it's here, I don't think we'll hear about that. Even if it is a cross-gen game, I don't think we'll hear about that in this direct. Just because they have specified that we will hear no mention of the Nintendo Switch successor during this presentation, and you know they would have to mention the Nintendo Switch successor if it is, if they want to talk about it being cross-gen. But it's just so weird because like it was announced 7 years ago, it got rebooted over 5 years ago, and we haven't seen anything of it. You know, the last mention we had of it was when Metroid Dread was revealed. So I think we're gonna hear about it in this direct. I wrote down we will have a small teaser of it with it ending on 2025, like as the date. Honestly, I think that's correct. I think we will see at least Metroid Prime 2, and I think we'll at least get a mention of Prime 4. But I think we'll see something from it. I think we will see either a small teaser or maybe a screenshot or something like that, or maybe like a gameplay screenshot. If it is a teaser, I think it will be all cinematic. I don't think it's gonna be like a logo or anything from like if we have a teaser. Maybe if it's like only the mention of it, maybe we'll see the logo. But I think maybe they reveal the title of it. That'll be a pretty good reveal, like alternative to a teaser. I think they could reveal like the title maybe. But I think honestly, out of all of these, we'll probably see Metroid Prime 2, Metroid Prime 3, and then maybe a mention or a small teaser for Metroid Prime 4. And then the last thing I have listed in the prediction section is Third parties. I have 4 games were listed for third parties. I guess I could include a fifth, and that would be anything from level 5. I have 2 level 5 games on this list, but maybe Yokai Watch would appear here. Maybe a new Yokai Watch. Though level 5 does have a presentation at some point during the summer, so maybe that'll be revealed there. But I think that'd be pretty cool. But again, like I said, third parties are pretty difficult to predict just because, it's a lot more likely that we probably able to get 1 or 2 predictions for first parties over third parties just because there's so much that could appear in a direct. The 4 third parties I wrote was Dragon Quest HD 2D. Something, we saw that being teased at the end of the month, last month in May. They said we'll hear news about it soon, or be like seen soon. Like we'll see it again soon. I think that's probably here in the direct. Honestly, I think that's probably the most likely thing I'm gonna say here. The Professor Layton game for Nintendo Switch that they announced last February, or February 2023. February 2023. I think that could appear here. Same thing with Fantasy Life 2. I don't remember the names. Like, they have subtitles, but I don't really remember the subtitles. And then the last game I have listed is Among Us. Just because I feel like Among Us was the reason why we knew this direct was happening today. If you all do not know, there was a small little teaser released for Among Us that was quickly taken down. Among Us update that was quickly taken down. And it said the 18th, and it was a shadow drop on that day. And that's what we kind of assumed, probably Among Us is in the direct, and Among Us will probably have a update appear and then a shadow drop. But that is all I honestly have for predictions when it comes to predictions. I have a couple of hopes. I don't think I missed anything. Actually, no, yes I did. Yes, I did. I did not mention Donkey Kong. I think we'll see something from Donkey Kong in this direct. I think it's either, if the 2D Zelda is in this direct, Donkey Kong is not here. But if something else from Zelda that's like a port or remake or a master is here, I think Donkey Kong is in this direct. I think that Donkey Kong game that's been rumored for a little while, that is rumored to be like a 2D Donkey Kong game from the studio, I think EPD8, that makes 3D Mario games. That's been rumored for a little while now, and I honestly think that I think it's probably for Switch. I could definitely see it being a next generation game, but I honestly think that, it's either 2D Zelda or Donkey Kong in this direct. I feel if both are here, then this might be the best direct ever. But I think at least one of those is here. A new 2D Zelda or Donkey Kong, and I'm leaning towards Donkey Kong. But I think at that point, that is it. Some of my hopes maybe seem like predictions, but I didn't. It's kind of weird because I put them on the hopes, but I have a Rhythm Heaven here. Let's take a little break for a second, and then I will go into my hopes. So, we will get right into it. So I have a couple of hopes that I wrote down, but I feel like some of them might be. I feel like some of these actually might be more likely than stuff I predicted. It's just the stuff I predicted seems to be a lot more oriented, or not oriented, but it would appear in a direct. It seems you hear about Metroid Prime 4 and you're like, okay, so Metroid Prime 2 and 3 probably are likely, or maybe something from Zelda is likely. I don't think I mentioned anything from Mario. Actually, I did mention the 3D Land and the Mario's Party, Mario Sports. Which I didn't mention, but if Mario Party is in this direct, I think Mario Sports is less likely. And if Mario Sports is in this direct, I think Mario Party is less likely. We'll definitely see one of them before the other in the direct. So I don't think they'll be the last announcement of the direct. So we'll know by then. But yeah, so let me just get right into my hopes. I mentioned Captain Toad 2 already. I think that would be pretty cool. I'm a big Captain Toad fan, so I would love to see another Captain Toad. But the main hope here is Kid Icarus Uprising, either an HD port, a remake, or a sequel to the game. I think that's honestly a Switch 2 game or a Switch successor game. it would be cool to see it on the Switch. You know, it would be cool to see at least Kid Icarus Uprising like HD on the Switch, but I just don't really feel like that's super likely at this point. I feel like maybe that would have been like an earlier in the like Switch lifespan announcement, like somewhere around like where Metopia was announced. I think that would have been cool. I have a Mario sports game here, and that's Mario 3-on-3 Hoops. Again, another game I mentioned earlier, either a HD port of it or like a sequel. I think that'd be pretty cool. Not like a port, like a HD remaster, but I think that'd be pretty cool. A new Punch Out, a new Mario and Luigi, a new Pushmo game, or a new Freaky Forms game. I just like those games on the 3DS, so I just wanted to list them. And then I have something for Pokemon. I have either the Pokemon Black and White ports or X and Y HD ports. Both of them would be in HD, but those are like very extreme. Those are maybe 0% to appear in this Direct. I don't think they would announce new Pokemon games, like mainline games in the Direct. But I just wanted to list them. But yeah, the probably like the three main hopes on this list would be Kid Icarus Uprising. I don't think I mentioned Rhythm Heaven. I did write Rhythm Heaven down here. But that's what I was talking about earlier. But I think Rhythm Heaven honestly could be a prediction to appear in the Direct. But with everything I listed already, I feel like a lot of this like has a good chance. I didn't even mention like a game like F-Zero Remastered. I think that honestly might have a better chance than, at least in theory, than a new Rhythm Heaven game. But honestly, that could be that could have been a prediction. And then like, I think it's probably Kid Icarus, Rhythm Heaven, and then maybe a new Pushmo game. Or like I think it's Pulmo, Pushmo. I think there's one more, but I don't remember the name of it. I think like those three are probably the most likely. Like a new Mario and Luigi, that'd be cool. Maybe a port of one of the older games, but I don't think that's likely. A new Punch Out, I think Next Level would probably want to do that, and they're probably working on Luigi's Mansion 3. And then yeah, a new Captain Toad, that'd be cool. But I think the 3D Mario team is probably, as I mentioned earlier, either working on 2D Donkey Kong, they're working on a new 3D Mario for the next console. Or both. They're probably working on the one they're probably working on is 3D Mario. If they're working on 2D Donkey Kong, that'd be pretty cool too. But yeah, that is honestly all I have for those hopes. One thing I was thinking about earlier that I did not mention was DLC. Like I mentioned the Mario Party, I think we Mario Party DLC, but I don't think Wonder and Pikmin 4 get DLC in this Direct as much as I would love for those two games to get DLC. I just don't think that's super likely at this point, just because I feel like, they, at least with Pikmin 4, that could have been announced in the September Direct last year. And then I feel like if they had Mario Wonder DLC, that would have been announced like on Mario Day as like a special announcement, but they didn't do that. So I'm a little more, those would be hopes. I didn't even put them down. But yeah, that is honestly, I think, all the hopes I have, all the predictions I have. And what I will finish off with this predictions video with is me talking about the lineup I think we'll see in this Direct. It's gonna be a first party lineup again because I think it's harder to predict third party games. But what the metric I took with making these two lists, I have one that is what I predict and one I'm hopeful for, is I think there'll be 6-ish announcements in this Direct. And so that is what I wrote. I think I did 6 on each of them, maybe 5 on the predicted one, just because it is I'm thinking it's the last Nintendo Direct of the Nintendo Switch era, at least focusing exclusively on Nintendo Switch. And I guess the one thing I should say before I go into either of these lists is that, as I mentioned again, the Nintendo Switch successor would not be mentioned during this presentation. And I think that rules out like a new 3D Zelda, a new 3D Mario, a new Mario Kart, stuff like that. Stuff we've predicted in the past that could appear in this Direct, like we just mentioned 4. That stuff we've predicted those games, but in the past, but I don't think that we will see them here. Just because I think those are Switch successor games at this point. But yeah, let me get into these two lists and then we can wrap up this video. If you watched until this point, please comment which prediction I guess you think that's going to be the most likely in the Direct. I'm thinking most people will probably comment Mario Party, but if you think a different prediction is more likely, please put that down in the comments below. All right, so the two lists is the one I'm gonna start out with is the predicted one. So I think that the opener. So I did like an order of like what we see usually in Nintendo Direct is an opener, a middle, and an end. I have two middles. I have the what I think will be headlines, and then I have the opener and the closer, in my opinion. So I think the opener for the predicted is Fire Emblem 4 Remake. Just because I think Fire Emblem has opened the two directs Fire Emblem has been in most recently, being Fire Emblem Engage in September of 2022, and then Fire Emblem Three Hopes in February of 2022. Those two did open up their directs, so I think Fire Emblem's a pretty good opener that Nintendo likes using as the opener. So I think that's going to appear as the opener. I think the first party headline that I listed is Mario Party Superstars 2. I think the middle of the direct will be a Metroid Prime segment. I think we will see full reveals of Metroid Prime 2 and 3 HD and a very short teaser of Metroid Prime 4 or the name of the game, like the title of the game, and it will be dated for 2025. I think the first party headline that will be following that is Rhythm Heaven, a Rhythm Heaven game for the Nintendo Switch, which is kind of weird. You know, like I said earlier, I did put that in the hope section, but I think it honestly could be a prediction, and that's why I wrote it down there. The second middle, I think, will be a new Mario baseball game. And then the closer, I think, is going to be a new 2D Donkey Kong. That's why I remembered, because I wrote these down a little while ago. I didn't just write these down. And I remember I did not say 2D Donkey Kong as a prediction. I think 2D Donkey Kong or 2D Zelda is the most likely. The one thing I did with this list is I feel like a lot of these games, like I feel like we're going to see a good amount of remasters, remakes, ports in this direct. So I feel like half of this direct, if not even more, is new games. So I don't know how likely that is. If I had to like replace one of these games, I think a 2D Donkey Kong could be replaced. Maybe they put Metroid Prime at the end, and then maybe the first middle is a HD port of like a Link to the Past, a Link Between Worlds, or something like maybe like a new Star Fox, not a new Star Fox. A Star Fox remake, remaster of Star Fox Adventure 1+2 or Assault or something like that. But yeah. So I honestly, from this list, I do think that the most likely is Fire Emblem 4 Remake and Mario Party. And I think the least likely, honestly, probably is Donkey Kong. Even though I've like praised, like if we don't see 2D Zelda, I think Donkey Kong's here. The most reasonable probably would say 2D Donkey Kong isn't here. I think 2D Donkey Kong will be here, and that is why on my hopeful list I have the same thing I had stated before, where I have Fire Emblem 4 Remake as the opener. I think the first party headline that we see is Mario Baseball. I think the first party headline we see after that is Pikmin 4 DLC, which is why I mentioned it as a hope, because I don't think we're actually going to see that here. The first middle, I think, is going to be Kid Icarus Uprising Remake. Very unlikely, but I just wanted to say it. I just wanted to say that. I think the headline that follows that is New Rhythm Heaven game. I think the second middle in this this amazing direct that I'm trying to create here would be 2D Zelda. And like a new 2D Zelda, slated for November 2024. Actually, I didn't mention that. I'll go back and say it with the dates I wrote down. But I think 2D Zelda will be in November 2024. I think Metroid Prime 2D HD would be in this direct. It'd be a shadow drop, and they will not have Metroid Prime 4, because I think in this scenario you don't need Metroid Prime 4 for a direct like this. You know, it has this much content already. And the closer I think would be 2D Donkey Kong, and that would be that'd be October of 2024. For Fire Emblem Remake, I think that's both of them. I think it's going to be August of this year. Mario Party, I think it will be. I think Mario Party will be October. I don't think I mentioned Mario Party in my hopeful list. That's because like I mentioned earlier, I think we either see Mario Baseball or like Mario Sports or Mario Party. I don't know if we see both in this direct. I don't know if we've ever actually seen that before, where like the direct had two like from different franchises, like Mario Party and Mario Sports. I don't know if we've ever seen that before when it comes to the direct, so that's also why I didn't really want to mention it like that. But yeah, I think Mario Baseball, it'll be like October. Same thing with Mario Party, October. I think the Metroid Prime segment in the first list would be, like I mentioned earlier, July for Prime 2, August for Prime, oh no, July for Prime 2, September for Prime 3, and then 2025 for Prime 4. The Rhythm Heaven game would be in August. And then 2D Donkey Kong on both lists would be holiday, as I mentioned earlier, that'd be October. And then Kid Icarus Uprising remake, that would be a 2025 game. I don't think they're going to remake it and then release it this year. I think that's honestly, if it's in the direct, I think it's a cross-gen game, honestly. And then, as I mentioned earlier, 2D Zelda would be November 2024. The Metroid Prime 2 plus 3 HD would be Shadow Drops. And then, yeah, that is all the predictions I wrote down. Honestly, I probably missed something. I did list off pretty much everything that I had on my mind when I wrote these, but yeah, that's an hour long of just predictions. But I want to just get everything out. Again, I'm just gonna go do a quick round of just all of these. I think Fire Emblem 4 is likely. Mario Party is likely. Something from Zelda is likely. Something that nobody's predicting is likely. I think something from Kirby is likely, even though I did not mention that. I mean, I could definitely see maybe a Kirby replacing Metroid Prime 3 maybe, and they just have like Prime 2 as like a headline or something like that. And then a 3DS port I don't think is as likely. A Pokemon I don't think is as likely. I think we see a GameCube port, and then I think we see a Mario Sports or a Mario Party, and then I think 2D Donkey Kong is probably the most likely of the rumored or speculated holiday games. But yeah, that is all I have for you all today. And then I think I mentioned my Metroid Prime 2 and 3. I think we at least see Metroid Prime 2. And yeah, that is all I have for you all today. I hope that you all enjoyed this fairly long predictions video. It was really fun to record it. It's really fun to like make these predictions and write them down. I wrote these down on, let's see, today's the 17th. So I wrote these down yesterday. That's what I if the direct was announced today, I knew I had to get this video out, so I went through and I just wrote down all my predictions. And yeah, so that is all I have for you all today. So I hope you all enjoy tomorrow's Nintendo Direct. I am very excited for it. I will be recording a reaction to it. Again, it is roughly 40 minutes long, so we will see what that means, like what that entails, with announcements. And yeah, again, I'll do a reaction for that. I'm very excited for it. I honestly, it's very possible none of these predictions are correct, and we see something, a direct that's totally different than I'm expecting tomorrow, which would be really exciting. Both of these directs would be really exciting. Any type of direct is really exciting. That is all I have for you all again today. Sorry I keep repeating that, and I will see you in the next one, which will be a Nintendo Direct reaction video. And then I'll probably do a discussion video of the direct after that. But yes, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Please, again, subscribe, like the video. Please put down any comments of any predictions you have for the direct, or like any hopes you have. And yeah, I will see you in the next one. So make sure to do what you're happy, because that rhymes with generic happy. And goodbye.